Anyway, so thanks so much, Catherine, for that introduction. Kate and I work very closely together in the academic teaching department of physiotherapy at King's College London, and we're going to present to you very briefly two projects that have been funded at King's by the Education for Sustainability Fund. So I've got a little bit of background, and then we'll talk about these two projects, one of which is a uni-professional project and one which is an interprofessional project. So just as a bit of background, I won't sort of talk too much about the real sort of principles underlying sustainability, because I think a lot of people are very well aware of that. But based on the fact that the health and social care contributes to almost 5% of UK admissions, we feel, and I'm sure most people share this view, that UK pre-registration healthcare learners should have the knowledge and skills to play their part in minimising that impact post-graduation. But actually, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking potentially while they are learners, while they are students. At King's, we have two pre-registration physiotherapy programmes, a BSc and an MSc. And I think a lot of the existing frameworks, as we've sort of already heard a little bit, focus very much on sort of a uni-professional framework to think about sustainability. Whereas in fact, as you'll hear from Kate, healthcare is delivered by multi-professional teams, and interprofessional education is the absolute backbone of healthcare programmes nowadays, with students learning from and with each other at the same time. I'm going to talk very briefly about a uni-professional project that we've been involved in the last year. In the existing physiotherapy programmes at King's, sustainability is already integrated into the programme, but we are very keen to make that much more explicit. At the moment, students are focused to take a very patient-centred approach, which obviously is very important for sustainability, and also to think about the environmental factors that may impact on the people that they're working with. And also there is a very strong focus on health promotion. So if we go on to the next slide, the physiotherapy projects that I've led aimed to identify some real world scenarios with a theme of sustainability, to start to introduce the theme of sustainability very, very early on the programme, so that the students, by the time they arrive a little bit later, at the point where they'll be thinking about quality improvement, will have some of those fundamental knowledge and skills. We also wanted to increase student and staff knowledge about sustainability in healthcare, some very sort of introductory information, and to co-produce with some of our learners resources that we could situate within the programmes. For this year, we've produced a sort of early suite of a lecture and seminars, which we intend to spiral through the programme, leading up to the quality improvement projects later on. We recruited a number of students to this project, and at the same time, what we were hoping to do was to inform that the topics, if you like, using experiences from placements for students. We've created the students and partners have created taken part in a lot of training, and so far we have created and piloted a lecture and some seminars for level 4 learners on the physiotherapy programmes. You can see there the learning outcomes that we took quite a long time to pull together for level 4 students. So thinking very much about the concept of environmental sustainability in healthcare, thinking about the different types of environmental impact resulting from healthcare provision, and identifying previous sustainability initiatives, particularly focused on physiotherapy, and then identifying ways that we could think about influencing and improving sustainability in physiotherapy. So that's sort of where we've got to. And we're just finalising the evaluation of this small project with a view to looking at how well placed our students feel to actually influence and think about sustainability early on in their programme, on their placements. I'm going to hand over to Kate now.
Thank you. You're on mute, Kate.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think I was muted, but unfortunately I couldn't then see that because I was sharing my screen. Can you hear me now? And you can see that?
Yeah, We can see
Super.
that. We can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. So just in terms of the interprofessional project, so I am leading on this interprofessional education project and secured some funding through King's Academy, Sustainable Education for Sustainability Fund, and that has enabled us to really look at this from the start. And luckily, we are in a position where we have very strong interprofessional education offering for all our healthcare students at King's College London. So it's sort of building on what is already there as a foundation. But specifically in terms of this project, we were able to and are sort of still going through these later phases of the project. And so our early phase was to try to carry out some pre-learning and scoping work, which we did last year with my co-lead, and developed a sort of sustainable healthcare strategy interprofessionally at King's. And in order to do that, we were able to use the funding to carry out a 3-day cross-faculty retreat, which was wonderful. We went off to Cambridge, to Madingley, and immersed ourselves in the greenery to work together interprofessionally across all 4 of the healthcare faculties to try to develop this over 3 days. And IOMA was there to sort of help and support that first day, which was a really amazing start to our work. And so we're now coming towards the later phases, and we have already carried out some initial co-design with students, looking to try to benchmark now that we have our set of learning outcomes, and I'll come on to those in a second in the next slide. So we've carried out some student co-design, but then we need to be able to actually carry out a pilot and to be able to evaluate it before we can take this forward at scale. And in terms of otherwise, just to give you a little bit of context, so we have some benefits at King's in that we have a number of different healthcare programs, and you can see that in the blue box on the left side of the screen. And we can see that there is real potential for impact and reach of interprofessional education at King's. So just from the last academic year, IPE was able to support education for over 5,000 unique student opportunities across all 4 healthcare faculties, across 16 programs, 10 departments, and that contributed over 35,000 student hours of interprofessional education. So that doesn't include yet the interprofessional sustainable healthcare opportunity, but where you can see that that has a real potential for impact, that we can reach lots of students, that also comes with it considerable challenges, as you might imagine, to be able to navigate across all of the teaching structures and the timetables and the space, etc. So lots to think about. And so our outputs, you can see here on the right hand side, these are our learning outcomes that we created as a cross faculty team on our 3-day retreat, and that forms this sort of foundation for how we're going to match that to specific learning opportunities. So we're continuing our relationship with sort of external groups and the CSH and Planetary Health Report Card were very supportive in terms of our 3-day retreat. And so we now have our cross-faculty agreement on our learning outcomes. And so the ongoing work that we're doing is still to work with students and faculties to be able to map learning outcomes with resources, and we're still in the process of designing our pilot, but more to come on that, hopefully at other workshops, to be able to tell you about it. Great, so just to build on some key takeaways, and you can see some lovely images on the right hand side. So this was taken from our faculty retreat. So this is from the interprofessional project again. But Lorna and I have both got some key takeaways, which really sort of cross covers, I think, both the uni professional physiotherapy project and the interprofessional project. We feel that student partnership is absolutely critical in building this, and we know that many students are absolutely engaged in this topic, but also are, you know, really impassioned in wanting to be able to build this into their programs, and they want to be able to learn about it and take it into their practice. However, student engagement does have some challenges on healthcare programs. There are some differing priorities in terms of cohorts, in terms of departments, and as I've mentioned, the real challenges of timetabling and programs already feeling like they're very full. But it's about fitting this in a meaningful way for students. There's really extensive relevant literature and lots of resources, a sea of resources. And what I think we found, certainly in terms of the interprofessional project, is that actually it's not a lack of support and resources. It's almost just actually quite overwhelming to be able to spend time working out what's already there, to be able to pick on the right things and the right resources that actually might be able to be supportive, matching to certain learning outcomes of what we want to achieve. Writing learning outcomes to encompass such a broad topic of sustainable healthcare is really hard as well, and it definitely involves some storming, and we did that absolutely during our 3-day retreat. There were some really hard points, and as Lorna's mentioned, the learning outcomes took a really long time, but it is reassuring, and it's such a helpful foundation to begin once you have a set of learning outcomes that you can sort of then work backwards if you know what you want students to achieve at the end. I'm just going to hand back over to Lorna.
Thanks, Kate. Just following on from that, something that was very sort of true of the uni professional project was that it's a very emotional, sustainability is a very emotional topic with potentially differing perspectives. So I think that was something that became very clear and was important to us, that we need to make sure that we create a culture of respect and safety, as we would hope to always. But I think I was very struck by some of the differing perspectives that are out there. There's a lot already going on in sustainable healthcare. So I think a bit coming back to the resources, really, you need to really build some time to sort of scope and meet people and learn about people. So events like today are really fantastic for moving your own work and learning from each other as well. And just from a sort of personal note, and I think this will be true of the interprofessional project as well, our student partners, who were a really critical part of our work, didn't just learn about sustainability, the things that they talked about afterwards, and it would be lovely if they were here today, but they're on placements, but it's also the pedagogy and the curriculum design that they learned about, which was really unexpected, probably unwisely on my part, but it was a really good positive output of the project. Really, we just want to acknowledge all the support that we had from the King's Academy, the SusQI, from our community trust, who are building up these additional resources that we're going to use, from the Education for Sustainability Fund, and certainly to acknowledge all our colleagues, both in the IPE project and the Physiotherapy project, who made the work really good fun. And that photograph on the side just show what a fantastic retreat we had. Thank you very much.